So I go through the team lists. I think about how the game will go. I think about the individuals, what might happen, the matchups, recent form, league table. And then I end up with that. I end up being as good as a stopped clock. I don't understand what there is for me to do. So just as a pre-warning, I'm going to go through the team lists as normal. I'm going to talk about how the game should go as normal. And then after that, on a few of the games, I'm just going to flip a switch and just go purely off vibes. And maybe I'll get my first 8 out of 8. And if I do, I'm going to go mental. Kicking off round 18, we have the Eels taking on the Rabbitohs, starting with the team list of the Eels. In the backs, they have Clint Gutherson, Jake Tago, Will Penasini, Sean Russell, Blaise Talangi, Dylan Brown and Mitchell Moses. In the forwards is Regan Campbell-Gillard, Brendan Hands, Junior Barlow, Ryan Matterson, Bryce Cartwright and Sean Lane. On the bench is Matthew Arthur, Joe Offengawi, Matt Dury and Charlie Geimer. On the side of the Rabbitohs, they have Latrell Mitchell, Alex Johnston, Tarnay Milne, Richard Kenner, Jacob Gagai, Jack Whiten and Cody Walker. In the forwards is Davey Mwale, Damien Cook, Sean Kepi, Cameron Murray, Jai Arrow and Kian Kalamatangi. And on the bench is Peter Mamazalis, Talis Duncan, Thomas Burgess and Michael Cheekham. So to talk about this game normally, the Rabbitohs are on significantly better form. The Eels probably should have beaten the Knights last week, given the clarity in their team, and the Knights still having to use new plays in the spine, such as Will Price. But that doesn't matter, does it? Just a little bit of logic just doesn't really matter this season, does it? No. The Rabbitohs have won 4 on the bounce. The Eels' form has been pretty poor over the last 5 games. So logic dictates, given the performances and the personnel available, that the Rabbitohs should be completely fine in this game. So I'm going to kickstart this video with a pretty normal prediction, which is essentially that the Rabbitohs should dominate, okay? The Eels, they can have their individual moments, okay? Mitchell Moses can come up with something. Dylan Brown can come up with something. Sometimes Gutherson can. They'll have moments here and there, but as a unit, they're lacking severely. Defensively, they are shocking this season. The Rabbitohs have put together good all-round performances, individually and as a unit. They're not relying on Cody Walker to pull up a few things, or Latrell Mitchell, or even Damien Cook through the middle. As a unit, they're working very well. Whiten's controlling things down the left, Cody Walker down the right. They can swap if needed. Mitchell's popping up here, there and everywhere, and Damien Cook's got that speed through the middle that can terrify defences. So I will be normal in this first prediction and say that in all areas, especially in the forwards, the Rabbitohs should dominate. Defensively, the Eels have been shocking, and given the players available for the Rabbitohs, they should win this game. And I think they should be comfortable in this game. So I'm going to kickstart this with a normal prediction that should happen. Of course, I will be fine with it not happening if there are stupid sin bins, red cards, injuries to key players. Those things can happen, and if they do, it doesn't bother me, because it doesn't indicate that the game, in terms of how I predicted it going, wouldn't have happened, okay? So I'm going to go with the Rabbitohs to win, 13+. Next up, we have the Sharks taking on the Titans. Starting with the team list of the Sharks. In the backs, they have William Kennedy, Daniel Atkinson, Jesse Ramian, Cale Ito, Ronaldo Mulatalo, Braden Trindle, and Nico Hines. In the forwards is Thomas Hazelton, Blake Brayley, Oregon Kafusi, Britton Nakora, Siya Talakai, and Cameron McInnes. On the bench is Jack Williams, Royce Hunt, Toby Rudolph, and Teague Wilton. On the side of the Titans, in the backs, they have Keanu Kinney, Alafiana Khan-Pereira, Brian Kelly, Philip Sammy, Jojo Fafita, AJ Brimson, and Kieran Foran. In the forwards is Moeki Fotuaika, Sam Verrills, Erin Clark, David Fafita, Beau Fermor, and Chris Randall. On the bench is Isaac Liu, Josiah Pahulu, Keenan Palacia, and Joe Stimson. Cronulla. Oh, Cronulla. My favourite weak-minded team of the NRL. How are you so good and so bad at the same time? As soon as I started watching that game against the Bulldogs, there was one thing I knew that was going to happen, is that when the dogfight started, the Sharks would lose. Not just the game, they'd lose the dogfight. I thought there'd be a few moments in there, the Bulldogs would make it complicated, but then when the game sort of ends up in a normal state, as which all games do at some point, they end up in a sort of normal state, the better team will show why they are the better team. And they certainly had those moments. But I knew the moment that the game was on the line, 100% of the time, I am taking Matt Burton over Nicho Hynes. I knew when that ball went to Nicho Hynes for the drop goal, I knew he was missing it. I knew that, but I didn't know the results of the other games. Like I picked my predictions extremely well when they don't matter. I just knew he was not going to clinch it for the Sharks. Matt Burton is a freak. It is ridiculous. The Sharks are such a weak-minded team. They're such a confusing, weak-minded team. They have so many great individuals. They feel quite well balanced, typically strong defensively, and can throw in some good shapes. I've talked about them before in the season, playing the flat style or the deep style in attack. They can still do that, but sometimes they rely too much on individuals to get them out of stuff. And when they start throwing the ball around a little bit too much, they start forcing stuff, they look horrible. The Titans. What are the Titans? Who are they? I don't understand them in this season. It is the most confusing thing I've ever seen in my life. Okay. Keanu Kinney, by the way, I am a huge fan of him. I think he is... I love how relentless he is as a fullback. His running, his never quit attitude. He is just a perfect example. I bet he's incredible to coach. I would love coaching him because you ask him to do something, he's going to do it 1 billion times until he's dead. He will give everything. He is insane. Khan Pereira, I think, is one of the most underrated wingers in the league. I think Kelly and Sammy, decent centres. They're decent. And Jojo Fifita is a pretty solid winger as well. AJ Brimson, on his day, can be one of the best sixes in the league. And Kieran Foran can shore up teams a little bit, can just help give them a little bit of clarity and calmness. And this is me trying to convince myself that I think the Titans are going to win this game. Because... And I'm doing Sharks fans a favour here because of how bad I am with predictions. I think the Titans are going to win this game because of how ridiculous the season has been. And I'm just trying to justify it in the best way possible. Because I think the Sharks are weak-minded. Now, what's going to happen is the Sharks will absolutely wipe the floor with the Titans because it turns out that, this is one of those weeks where the Sharks are going to be normal. This will be one of those weeks where the Titans play like the Titans. What is this season? I don't understand it. The only, I guess, logical explanation is Daniel Atkinson on the wing, assuming he will stay there and they don't make some other changes. But they might actually target Daniel Atkinson because of his lack of experience in that position. Nicho Hynes, and I put this as a tweet. Follow me on Twitter if you want. Link is in the bio. I don't tweet that much, but I did tweet after the game against the Bulldogs. I think it's fair to say Nicho Hynes is a good player, but not great. And that's it. He's a good player, but he's not great. Titans to win, 1 to 12 points. Next up we have the Broncos taking on the Panthers, starting with the team list of the Broncos. In the backs they have Reece Walsh, Corey Oates, Dane Mariner, Selwyn Cobbo, Jesse Arthurs, Ezra Mam and Jock Madden. In the forwards is Corey Jensen, Billy Walters, Payne Haas, Brendan Piacora, Kobe Hetherington and Patrick Carrigan. On the bench is Tyson Smoothie, Xavier Willison, Josiah Karapani and Martin Tapu. On the side of the Panthers, in the backs they have Dylan Edwards, Sonia Taruva, Isaac Tango, Paul Alamotti, Brian Toto, Jack Cole and Jerome Luai. In the forwards is Moses Liotta, Mitch Kenny, James Fisher-Harris, Scott Sorensen, Liam Martin and Isaiah Yeo. On the bench is Dane Laurie, Lindsay Smith, Liam Henry and Matt Eisenhuth. The Broncos, another one of those gutless, spineless teams. They are just horrible to watch when you've backed them in a bet, especially. What are the Broncos? The Panthers have also been up and down over the last couple of weeks. I don't know how to place them. They've had some good games, followed by a shocking game, followed by a good game, followed by a shocking game. They just don't know who they want to be without Nathan Cleary at the moment. But I'm relying on the fact that Jerome Luai is still doing quite a decent job at number 7, trying to put the team on his back, or at least the backs on his back, and carry that team forward. When you've got players like Jerome Luai and Dylan Edwards in there, and even Isaiah Yeo, to kind of pop up here, there, and everywhere, when you need them to, just to create that little moment of magic, it always helps. Now, I would normally say that having players like Reece Walsh in there as the X factor would be the difference maker. However, if it hadn't been for him maybe being shut down so much this season, like he's had a few great moments, but he's also been shut down a lot this year. So he's not had that same effect. The production that we get from Selwyn Cobbo is not the same at left centre as it is on the right wing. It's just not the same. Ezra Mam is doing a pretty decent job at times, but I think he's probably missing Adam Reynolds massively. Jock Madden is just not Adam Reynolds, as we know. Payne Haas, I always rely on him every week. I have great carries, great performances. No issues from him there, to be honest. I just think the Panthers are slightly more consistent. I am being slightly normal with my prediction on this one because maybe I would have previously gone with the Broncos, but the fact that they are just so gutless and spineless as a team right now, I've got no trust in them whatsoever. I think the Panthers week to week, they pretty much change, but there's going to come a point where they'll get that consistency. Having Edwards, Taruva, Toto, Luai, Leota, Fisher-Harris, Kenny, those guys that they rely on, the hard workers, I think that'll be the most important thing in this game, just getting the basics right, and then they'll wear down the Broncos and they'll fall to shit. So I'm going to go with the Panthers to win, 1-12 points. Next up, we have the Bulldogs taking on the Warriors, starting with the team list of the Bulldogs. In the backs, they have Connor Tracy, Jacob Kiraz, Bronson Cherry, Stephen Crichton, Blake Wilson, Matt Burton, and Toby Sexton. In the forwards is Max King, Reid Marnie, Samuel Hughes, Viliami Kickout, Jamin Salmon, and Bailey Hayward. On the bench is Kurt Mann, Josh Curran, Curtis Morin, and Lipoi Hopoi. I'm not too sure. In the backs for the Warriors, they have Chance Nickel-Klokstad, Dallin Watene-Zelezniak, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, Adam Pompey, Marcelo Montoya, Chanel Harris-DeVita, and Tamale Martin. In the forwards is Adam Fanua-Blake, Wade Egan, Mitch Barnett, Marata Niokore, Kurt Capewell, and Toy Harris. On the bench is Freddie Lussick, Dylan Walker, Jazz Tavanga, and Jackson Ford. Warriors, what are you? I don't understand what you are. You are the most confusing team in the NRL. What do you want to be? Okay? What do you want? Do you want the Premiership? Or would you like a wooden spoon? What do you want? I just do not get this team at all. Is Tamari Martin best at number 6 or number 7? Should Sean Johnson play? Or should Harris DeVita play? Should Tuivasa-Sheck be at 1? Should we drop Watene-Zelezniak? Should Fanua-Blake just go to the Sharks now? Like, what should we do with this Warriors team? I don't understand. What are you? I don't get it. Now, I think that this Bulldogs team, just because the Warriors are pissing me off so much, I just need the Bulldogs to demolish them. I'm not against the Warriors fans, okay? This is not against the Warriors fans. This is because them as a team are getting right on my nerves. And I need the Bulldogs to just demolish them. Because then the following week I can back them to win and they'll win. So, I just think Matt Burton, ice in the veins. Toby Sexton's having a good season alongside with him. Reid Marnie, one of the biggest shithouses in the NRL. Connor Tracy, I think, is a very reliable and intelligent player at number 1. I think he complements him quite nicely. Possibly more so than Blake Taff, in my opinion. And then having Stephen Crichton in there, you'll get in your head, son. So, I just think, and we all know who Stephen Crichton's going to go right for, and it's Adam Fanua-Blake. He's going to get right in his skull. And he's going to piss the Hulk off a little bit. I just think the way that the Bulldogs throw the ball around, the energy that they play with is vastly more consistent than the Warriors. So if I am going to mix things up, then surely I should be going with the Warriors to absolutely batter the Bulldogs. just being a little bit normal with this one, I think the Bulldogs are just leaps and bounds ahead of where they were last season. Significantly more consistent than the Warriors. The way they throw the ball around looks really nice. The energy, the pace and attack that they play with, and the fact that they are absolute demons in defence. The way that the Warriors can be very one-dimensional, if they are like that against the Bulldogs, you are getting 0 points, son. I think the Warriors can put up some good points. Because they're so tricky, they will find ways to score. Even though the Bulldogs are so good defensively, I think because of the individuals the Warriors have got and the fact that they can be a little bit unpredictable in their overall performances week to week, the Bulldogs may have some issues here and there defending against it. And you have to still go up against players like Watene-Zelezniak with kicks to the corner. So even if they're doing that, there's a good chance that Dallin can actually pick up a try or two from aerial challenges in the corner. I think Tamari Martin will have a few good runs at the line, possibly pick up a try himself as well. And then when you've got players like Wade Eakin with the speed through the middle, Fanua Blake carrying the ball as hard as he does, they'll get good field position as long as they're not as dumb as they were against the Titans. But I just think the Bulldogs, I think they'll be rewarded at some point with a huge win, or at least a substantial win. And I think this might be one of them. So I'm going to go with the Bulldogs to win 13+. Next up, we have the Tigers taking on the Storm, starting with the team list of the Tigers. In the backs, they have Jerry Mbula, Luke Laulili, Solomona Fartape, Adam Dewey, Charlie Staines, Lachlan Galvin, and Aidan Caesar. In the forwards is Stefano Otokomanu, Api Coruscant, Fanua Pole, John Bateman, Samuel Afenu, and Justin Matamua. On the bench is Heath Mason, Sione Fainu, Alex Seyfarth, and David Clemmer. On the side of the Storm, in the backs, you have Ryan Pappenhausen, Will Warbrick, Grant Anderson, Jack Howarth, Kane Bradley, Taron Wishart, and Jerome Hughes. In the forwards is Tui Kamikamitha, Bronson Garlick, Josh King, Sean Bloor, Eliezer Katoa, and Trent Liero. On the bench is Sua Farlogo, Christian Welch, Nelson Asfer Solomona, and Joe Chan. Again, the Tigers are still pretty shit, okay? The Tigers are still, generally speaking, pretty shit. But like once in a blue moon, we'll come out with a world-class performance. And they'll have like a world-class performance against a bad team, a mid team, and a great team. So if I was worth anything in this game, the Tigers should win by 13+. But Melbourne Storm, look, Ryan Pappenhausen's back in there, been in there for a good few weeks now. I'm not sure which round he came back in, but should be at full fitness. Is learning to work alongside Taron Wishart and Jerome Hughes, both of which I think are a fantastic partnership. Jerome Hughes, by the way, should have put this out there. I'm going to do it. Hot take. Jerome Hughes is I can't believe I'm going to say this out loud. Jerome Hughes is the second best halfback in the NRL. I've said it. Bronson Garlick at 9 is interesting. I think he's fine, but as always, having Harry Grant out of the squad is going to be tricky. Because if people shut down Bronson Garlick, or if Farlogo comes on as the hooker off the bench, however they decide to mix things up during the game, then it's going to be tricky finding that speed through the middle. And Harry Grant can help change the momentum at any point. But players like Pappenhausen and Wishart and Hughes can do that all themselves. And I think some of the players in the forwards, especially Katoa, he's been having a fantastic season. And he's a handful. Sean Bloor has been a little bit tricky from time to time over on the left-hand side. And Trent Liero has been really solid through the middle, especially defensively. There's not been as much production in terms of attack, but defensively have been really, really solid. I can't see the Tigers doing much. So I'm going to do a very normal thing and go with the Storm to win on this one. And I'm going to take, a 13+. I'm just telling you now. But do check the score in the bottom corner because I think it's going to be an absolute massacre just to try and get an exact score. You watch. I don't think I've had an exact score all season, I'll be honest. But this is the one. Okay? So I'm going to go with the Storm to win 13+. Yes. That exact score. Next up, we have the Cowboys taking on the Seagulls, starting with the team list of the Cowboys. In the backs, they have Scott Drinkwater, Carl Felt, Valentine Holmes, Viliami Vailea, Murray Talangi, Tom Dearden, and Chad Townsend. In the forwards is Jordan McLean, Reece Robson, Jason Taumalolo, Helam Lukey, Jeremiah Nanai, and Ruben Cotter. On the bench is Sam McIntyre, Harrison Edwards, Kilikefu Finifayuaki, and Griffin Neame. On the side of the Seagulls, in the backs, they have Tolu Kula, Jason Saab, Tom Trebojevic, Ruben Garrick, Tommy Talau, Luke Brooks, and Daly Cherry Evans. In the forwards is Toa Sipley, Jake Simpkin, Josh Alloway, Hamal Olakuatu, Ben and Jake Trebojevic. On the bench is Leahy Hopuate, Carl Lawton, Ethan Bullymore, and Nathan Brown. This is how I think it's going to go genuinely, okay? This is one of these potential upsets because I think most people will have the Cowboys for this game. This is why I'm going with the Seagulls. Number 1. Chad Townsend's kicking game, although it's not every week, it's every couple weeks, can have a kicking game that is absolute ass. Trust me, I am, as an expert in this, I know I'm right. Chad Townsend can have a kicking game that is pure ass. And if your kicking game is pure ass versus Daly Cherry Evans, you are not going to win the game. It's that simple. You aren't going to win. What I actually really like about this is having Tolukula at 1, letting him take the carries out of the backfield for the majority. Now, they might swap it around. They might put Tom Trebojevic at number 1, but I wouldn't do that. I actually wouldn't do that. Let Tolukula take the carries out of the backfield along with Jason Saab and Tommy Talau. Ruben Garrick has settled in quite nicely at number 4. And Tom Trebojevic at centre, with his step, with his intelligence, being an absolute nuisance. Because, now down the left-hand side, you're going to have Luke Brooks with his running game. Tommy Talau has scored plenty of tries this season, and Ruben Garrick's a very reliable, very solid centre. Then, that'll be complemented with Ben Trebojevic at second row. But if you go onto the right-hand side, you got Daly Cherry Evans running the game. Sometimes he might play the early ball to Hamal Olakuatu, who then does, something by himself, gets good field position, or, gets a few post-contact meters. He also then has Tom Trebojevic on that edge to help him out. And then Tom Trebojevic, if he has the space and time to do it, has Jason Saab 1 to his outside. That right edge is mental. Okay? It is mental. The left edge is good, of Luke Brooks attacking the left with Ben Trebojevic, Ruben Garrick, and then Tommy Talau. It's solid. It's decent. And then on the right side, DCE, Olakuatu, Trebojevic, and Saab. It's ridiculous. And for me, that's the game changer. That is it. Even though the Seagulls have been ridiculously inconsistent, they've had some absolute shocking games. The Cowboys, for me, have conceded way too many points. They could put up 50 in this game if they wanted to. I'll put it out there now. If the Cowboys score 40 or 50, I wouldn't be surprised. So I'm just putting that in there before it actually happens. And I look like an idiot, even though I'm going to on the other games that I've already talked about. I just think that right edge is just the difference maker. And there's something about Kula at centre. Sometimes I'm not always a fan, but I trust Tom Trebojevic at centre with my life. Watch him have an absolute stinker. So I'm going to go with the Seagulls to win 1 to 12 points. Next up, we have the Roosters taking on the Dragons. In the backs for the Roosters, they have James Tedesco, Daniel Tupou, Michael Jennings, Sitili Tupanua, Dominic Young, Luke Keary, and Sam Walker. In the forwards is Jared Warrior-Hargreaves, Brandon Smith, Lindsay Collins, Angus Crichton, Victor Radley, and Connor Watson. On the bench is Nafahu White, Terrell May, Nat Butcher, and Spencer Leniu. On the side of the Dragons in the backs, they have Tyrell Sloan, Zach Lomax, Moses Suley, Max Fagai, Christian Tupelotu, Carl Flanagan, and Ben Hunt. In the forwards is Francis Molo, Jacob Liddle, Jack DeBellin, Raymond Faitala Mariner, Jaden Sewer, and Tom Eisenhuth. On the bench is Blake Laurie, Ben Murdoch-Masilla, Toby Couchman, and Luciano Leilua. So, this is going to be one of those bogey games, okay? You ready for this? Try scorers for the Roosters will include James Tedesco, Brandon Smith, Angus Crichton, and Dominic Young. Okay, there we go. The Roosters are going to score 24 points. Ben Hunt will miss the game equalising goal at the end of the game, or towards the end of the game. The 4 tries from the Dragons will be from Tyrell Sloan, Zach Lomax with 2, and Cal Flanagan. There you have it. Perfect prediction. I think somehow, ridiculously, the Roosters will just edge this by 2 points. Because why not? There's no point talking about tactics or... Because these teams are, not light years apart, but it's, pretty big distance apart between the two. Cal Flanagan's going to have the most world-class performance you've ever seen in your life. But the Roosters will just somehow get it done. Because Ben Hunt will mess it up for them. I also think there's going to be a sin bin from Jared Warrior-Hargreaves. Yeah, there you go. That's my prediction for the game. I just think the Roosters, they are balling at the moment. Like, they're an incredible team right now. They might be the strongest team in the NRL. They might be. If not, they're the top 3. As an absolute minimum, they're top 3. The Dragons, I actually really like this season. Of course, I'm mainly comparing them to last season because they were completely dog shit last year. But they're a solid team. They've still got issues to work on, but I do like how it's going for them because of how bad they've been over the last couple of years. I'm just happy for them to at least see the progress that they've made. And I think Cal Flanagan fits that system. He's not really a scapegoat at the Bulldogs anymore. Tyrell Sloan, I think he was given quite a bit of criticism. Was it last year or the year before maybe? People probably went in on him. But I kind of like where the Dragons are going. And I think that there are some occasions that they kind of rise to. And don't get me wrong, the Roosters have had some stinkers this year. And namely, I think it was round 2 against the Seagulls was one of the most garbage performances I've ever seen in my life from any team ever. In the NRL and Super League. So, yeah, it's within the Roosters to have a stinker. But I think they'll be fine for the win, but I think the Dragons will absolutely take him right to the end because it's not normal for that to happen. No one else will think it's going to happen, and therefore it makes it the correct thing to predict. Because, yeah, what's the point in actually trying with these if I only get 2 out of 7 or 8 every week anyway? So I'm going to go with the Roosters to win 1 to 12 points. Finally, for this round, we have the Raiders taking on the Knights, starting with the team list of the Raiders. In the backs, they have K.O. Weeks, Jordan Rapiner, Matthew Timoko, Albert Hopewate, Xavier Savage, Ethan Strange, and Adam Cook. In the forwards is Josh Papali'i, Tom Starling, Joseph Tarpany, Hudson Young, Elliot Whitehead, and Morgan Smithies. On the bench is Danny Levy, Ata Moriata, Trey Mooney, and Simi Sasagi. On the side of the Knights, in the backs, they have Kalen Ponga, Enari Tuala, Dane Gagai, Bradman Best, Greg Marju, Will Price, and Jackson Hastings. In the forwards is Daniel Saifiti, Jaden Brayley, Leo Thompson, Tyson Frizzell, Kai Pearce-Paul, and Adam Elliott. On the bench is Fletcher Sharp, Jacob Saifiti, Brodie Jones, and Dylan Lucas. Are you ready for this prediction? Are you ready for this? Okay. This is where the Knights' insane win streak begins, okay? Are they on a 1 win streak or a 2? I think they're on a 1, regardless. This is one of those games that's part of that insane win streak like they had last year. It's beginning. It's starting. You want to know why? Kalen Ponga's back, for 1. Number 2, he's playing with Will Price. Probably the best number 6 in the NRL. You're welcome from England, by the way. We gave him to you so you could witness pure greatness. Jackson Hastings, yes, he's Australian, but we thought, given his time at Salford and Wigan, Super League's finest, we'll send him over and you guys can do better because of it. I think the Knights are going to absolutely thrash the Raiders here because I've backed the Raiders in a few weeks, but they've shown me up. I would like to see the Knights with Ponga, Price, and Hastings absolutely destroy the Raiders here. I know I sound ridiculous, but Ponga and Price is going to be the most insane partnership you have ever seen in your life. Ever. Okay? Just so you know, just so you're aware. I think the forwards of the Knights, probably not as strong against the Raiders. I think the Raiders in the forward pack can pretty much compete with anybody. But, mate, when you've got Kalen Ponga at 1, and defensively, if you're not on it, it's his day, okay? There's just no changing it. If you're not even slightly on it in defence, Kalen Ponga will tear you a new arsehole, okay? I think the Knights will tear the Raiders a new arsehole. Of course the Raiders are going to win this, 13+. I understand that because why not? But Ponga individually causes so many problems. I think Will Price will take a lot of confidence off the back of last week, taken into this week. I think Jackson Hastings has a bit more time to get comfortable with Will Price. It looked to me a couple times they were quite separate, as though Hastings would just, worry mostly about the left-hand side, Will Price about the right. They just leave them on their own sides to do their own thing, which I think it's actually more beneficial this week to leave them on their own sides, because then they've got Kalen Ponga to work with, who will just pop up on either side if and when needed. So, and that will suit Will Price a lot better, as he's still going to learn and still adapt to the NRL. So that's being actually normal. Plus Adam Cook in there at number 7 could make it very tricky for the Raiders. So to actually be a little bit normal with my analysis, that's why. Kalen Ponga at 1, Will Price more experience at number 6, Jackson Hastings being used to him. The forward pack of the Raiders being stronger than the Knights, Adam Cook being inexperienced this season and maybe not being able to control the game. KO Weeks, less experience at number 1. I think it's going to be on Ethan Strange basically to run the entire show. So I'm going to go with the Knights to win 13+. So to recap the most unprofessional video I've ever done in these predictions videos, I'm going to go with the Rabbitohs 13+, the Titans and Panthers 1 to 12 points, the Bulldogs and Storm 13+, the Seagulls 1 to 12, Roosters 1 to 12, and the Knights 13+. In terms of winners' confidence, I am at 100%. 100%. In terms of margin confidence, I'm at 100%. There is no chance in hell that any of these games are going to be wrong. I've given you pure godlike analysis. I cannot be wrong. I will not be wrong. You've seen my track record this season. You know for a fact that when I've been trying, it's not gone that well. And now that it doesn't matter anymore, we're going to make some money this weekend. We're going to make shit tons of money this weekend. But yeah, 100% confidence. I might go back to normal next week, even if this is a somewhat decent week. Let's say even if it's like a 5, 6 or 7 out of 8. I might just go back to a normal video next week. But just for this week only, I've decided to not really care and to just take the piss with this one. So that's my analysis and recap for this round. So that's going to be it for this video. If you have your own predictions, please do let me know in the comments down below. If any of them are different to this, you're wrong. Let me know how it went for you last week. If you got the same as me or even less, God help you. But that's going to be it. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.